Hello and welcome to the Deep Beer Podcast. My name's Sean and joining me as always is the one and only Dante Boffin. Mr. Boffin, my man, how are we?
I'm lit.
You're lit?
No, I'm not actually. I don't know why I said that. This pod's off the rails already. I'm good.
Yeah, that's
feels
good.
Better.
Yeah. We both said before that we feel a little bit tired, whether it be too much caffeine or not enough caffeine. So we've decided to put it down to not enough.
If you are pepping up significantly in the second half of this podcast, it'll probably be because of the 2 Pepsis and a coffee that you've had in the last half an hour.
Yeah, I hope so. I have started sweating, so maybe it is kicking in.
Whoa, jeez, jinx. I was just going to say, too much caffeine late in the day is like a no-go for me. Unless we're talking like going out somewhere and you're like, I'll just get an espresso martini like when I get there. A little bit fancy, a little bit of a pep.
As your first drink.
Yeah, as your first drink, just to get your eye in. I did it a couple of weeks ago.
Get your eye in.
And it really worked for me.
Yeah, I actually did it on Friday.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
And how'd it go?
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
I was with a mate who's like, he's like, I don't want to go out too much. I'm like, yeah, whatever, man. Like, let's just get dinner.
Sounds like a square.
Nah, he's just responsible.
Yeah.
Which is the nicest slant.
It is a Monday night.
No. So this was Friday. We went out, and there was like the Vietnamese equivalent of Espresso Mart, called like Saigon something. We went out for Vietnamese, and it was like, gorgeous and stuff. And then as we're chatting, like, it turns out we were actually celebrating because he just got a job that morning in like a dream job that is very, very good.
Wow! Congratulations to unnamed friend.
Yeah.
Happy for you.
And we're like, well, fucking, do you want to have a couple of pints? And he's like, you know what? Let's go have a beer. And then and all of a sudden, blink my eyes, and I'm on the drunk tram home. This was Fitzroy, just on Napier Street, Fitzroy.
Nah, never heard of it.
It's just like the edgy bit of Fitzroy, which is away from Brunswick Street, but still has everything you need.
Nah, I wouldn't know about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why not?
I'm not edgy enough.
Oh, you got a mustache and an earring.
That just doesn't cut these days. The times are changing.
Times changing. But yeah, that's not the story that we were going to start this pod off with. But it is.
Did we have a definite story? Dude.
Just now I think about it, it's terrible. I really wanted like some shells for my shoes because I'm sick of like just chucking my shoes in the wardrobe. So I went to your old stomping grounds, Bunnings.
Oh, don't say the B word.
Bunnings were a house, and went in, looked around, did the old g'day mate, where can I find maybe storage stuff? And I go, 14. Yeah, 14, yeah. Just chuck on the most awkward voice I can because I'm up Bunnings. Like, despite wearing like baggy jeans and Air Maxes, I could try and be a faux tradie. And then I'm walking around and I'm sizing up stuff, hands on hips, going, yeah, how would that look in that stuff? And I'm
bonus points if you bring your own tape measure. So
I just pickpocketed some old man. But I wish I did bring a tape measure because I measured the width but not the height. So I'm like, 42 centimeters, mad, cool. Here's this one, 41 centimeters, perfect, like surprisingly perfect. Like, how good? Take it home. I'm building it. Couldn't build it, had my mate Stelio help me, and then I was like, this is way too big, and it's covering this picture, like a really important family picture on my wall, but there is no other room for it to go in my room. This is for shoes, by the way, so it's like a shoe rack. Full, like, industrial, not meant to be looked up, but now I've just got this, like, grey and brown shoe holder in my room.
What happened to the picture?
Well, it's just there, it's just sort of hidden.
Surely you put it in a different spot.
Yeah, maybe.
Move the picture to a different part of the wall.
Mate, the price of command hooks is going through the roof.
Mate, the price of command hooks, I hate to break it to you, but it's always been through the roof. Usually, command hooks are billed as like the renter's friend, but in actuality, it's not the friend of the renter's wallet. Because you're paying like $11 for like a pack of 8, and 8 gets you most likely 2 things on the wall.
Yeah.
Each thing needs four corners of a square picture to be securely started. And don't even get me started on the isopropyl alcohol that they sell. They sell you 30 mils of isopropyl alcohol.
What for?
And they say clean the wall with this.
I've never cleaned the wall.
Because otherwise the adhesion of the hooks can't actually be guaranteed.
Yeah.
Because there could be dust and debris and stuff.
Yeah.
30 mils of isopropyl alcohol for $3 when you can get like 500 mil for like $4 if you just go down Brunswick Bunnings aisle 6, go down to second bay on your left as you walk in, and just get some Diggers isopropyl alcohol, and you're laughing. It's like, command, like 3M, seriously, you are taking the piss with this.
So funny you mention that, because when I read the instructions, so I've been in this house for 2 months, right? And when I go to hang up the old command hook, first step, clean the wall. Fuck off, my walls are fine, right? And I haven't actually thought that maybe that's the issue, but since I've been here in 2 months, I've had at least 6 pitches fall.
Really?
Yeah.
Are they just randomly falling?
Well, yeah, last night I was sitting on the couch, bang! There goes my Michael Jordan slam dunk contest in my room.
Jeez.
I had this Beatles one, glass shattered, I had a Star Wars one, and they're all just, they're all, I would say, going through the roof, but going through the floor.
That's
so
actually...
maybe I should clean especially when they're like $11 a pop.
Well, I don't clean them for what it's worth.
And do yours hang up?
Yeah. The only time I've lost one is when someone slammed the door really loud, and the wall like shook and the thing fell off.
Yeah. Well, speaking of wall shaking and things falling off, we are revisiting a podcast we did 120 episodes ago, which is such a fucking an ego boost to say that, but 120 episodes ago, some measly 2.5 years ago, we decided to do a pod that we were just having a debate, and we said, oh shit, let's record this. And the debate was me pining for Donovan Mitchell and you saying, oh, I'd rather someone like Brandon Ingram. Dude, that's cat piss.
Well, we've got the cat and the cat litter box in full view here, and the cat is just fucking staring straight ahead and pissing out an absolute stream.
But I just checked the audio, it's not coming up. Bugger. But anyway.
Wow, this cat is still going. It's just staring at the door. Tiger!
Nah, bro. When you're in the zone. But Donovan Mitchell versus Brandon Ingram. We had this debate a little while ago. I was on the side of Spider Mitchell, as you say, Spider, and you were chanting "Let's go Brandon" for Brandon Ingram, not anyone else. Let's just take a minor intermission.
Chaotic start. And
we're back. So, yeah, a lot has changed in the past 2.5 years, obviously, in the basketball world. But I think this debate is still, I think, quite neck and neck and more philosophical than just sort of straight stats and who's the better player. So, what do you want to start with here?
Well, I think just referencing our conversation that we had way back in February 2020. We knew that it was philosophical then, because obviously in terms of like general career progression, then and now they are quite similar. Like, they're two kind of like young stars who have been all-stars, who have like won awards, who have featured in the postseason. And that was true to a lesser extent then in terms of their like establishment, but they were both guys on the rise. When we did this, that was the season that Brandon Ingram ended up being an all-star. Mitchell had already been an all-star and had like showed out in the playoffs. So they very much were like on the scene as established NBA talent. And we knew that it was philosophical then, because despite all of those similarities in terms of play style and in terms of like positionality and role, they're quite different, because you've got Ingram, who's the not quite prototypical but very close to the prototypical big wing initiator, can be the lead ball handler, can be the dominant scorer, and you've got Mitchell, who's kind of more typecast as like the explosive scoring guard. And I think last time when we had this discussion, we waited until the end to talk about who we would actually take. But I think we should flip it this time. And I just want to tell you right now that I'm still taking Brandon Ingram.
Yeah. Partly for storyline and intrigue, and partly because I believe it. I'm still taking Donovan Mitchell.
Wow. A deep two disagreement. This doesn't happen very often. Okay, well, what I would say is that in thinking about this question, I tried to approach it from a few different like philosophical standpoints. And the biggest, broadest way that I looked at it was like, who would I want on my team? Who can I see being on my team? And I can really easily actually see Ingram being like the second best player on like a really, really good team. We've kind of seen what Ingram as the best player on a team looks like, and it looks like this year's Pelicans.
Yeah, a 10 seed for a reason.
Yeah, a 10 seed for a reason. Maybe, you know, with him getting a little bit better and on like a better team, the maximized version of like Ingram as the solo star could be like a 6 seed. But pair him with someone elite, and he's kind of the ideal second star in a lot of ways, because, and this is something that we talked about 2.5 years ago, which is more true now than it was then, but his role flexibility is really, really appealing when you're thinking about what kinds of players you could pair him with, especially when you're thinking about how he's going to fit with Zion, because obviously Zion himself is like a very unique player. Not many 6'6", 285-pound forwards going around these days. Arguably, there hasn't really been any of those blokes since Charles Barkley, who retired 25 years ago.
And now David Roddy.
Yeah, David Roddy with the hot body. Now I've lost my train of thought. But Ingram can play up to the 4. He can also be the ball handler if you want to put like a lineup with big wings on the floor. And not only is he versatile in terms of sliding up and down the positional scale, but he can be that dominant scorer, and he's had seasons where he's averaged 23, 24, 25 points. He's done it in the playoffs, albeit in a smaller...
just one series but 7 games.
Yeah, only 6, but just FYI. But he averaged 27 points a game as like the primary scorer, and he had that one game where he was going head to head with Booker and he scored 38. So he can kind of do that, but at the same time, like he averages 5.5 assists a game, which is pretty fucking good for like your lead ball handler in like a spread offense. So. I think that in terms of building out a team that's going to be good, I would much rather have Ingram than Mitchell.
Yeah. So like if that's the argument, so like one of the questions I've got here is, where would I like to have these guys on a hypothetical team? And hypothetically, if we're starting from a blank slate, let's say there's an expansion team and I could pick one of these 2 guys.
Where's the expansion team?
Melbourne. Need a third team. I would love to have Brandon Ingram as like, you know, one of the first sort of guys to build around. Not because I think he's like wherever he goes you're going to have a beautiful offense. Like he's not like Steph Curry or Jokic where you plop them down and it works. But just because he gives you so much flexibility in terms of he should be a power forward, but he's got heaps of switchability and he's long enough to make up for a little bit of a speed difference, and he's like that can, you know, we haven't really seen it with this New Orleans team, but him maybe even like sniffing the 5 potentially in like some very, 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 very rare lineup, especially because they've got who's the defender dude?
The defender dude.
You're
talking about Jackson Hayes?
No, the rookie. I've completely
Herb Jones.
So like if you can have a couple more Herb Jones, and now they've got Dyson Daniels in there, and like, you know, they had Lonzo. Like you've got this very tall switchable lineup. So hypothetically, that's awesome. Like I actually really like his prospects there. But with this New Orleans team, he's always going to be pigeonholed into the wing, and we're never going to truly see that sort of switchability that could happen unless, you know, hopefully not. We see Zion have another season-ending injury where it's like, okay, then you've got bigger problems than just not maximising BI.
But don't you think that he could feasibly, like when you roll it out and you say like, here's the starting lineup, like yeah, he's gonna be on the wing. Just looking at the players that they have, like he's gonna be a wing player, at least in terms of like where he's spending most of his time. But he can guard 2s, he can guard 4s. So your positional flexibility like is already there, and role flexibility for me is just as important in this discussion, because I don't see as much role flexibility with Mitchell, regardless of what kind of alignment you roll the ball out with.
Now we'll get to that later.
Well, like Ingram kind of has that. Like he can be the on-ball creator, he can be the secondary playmaker, he can be the lead scorer, which minimizes the issues of who you have around him.
But I don't think it does, because like while that's all true for Brandon Ingram, because he's going to play with Zion, and we know that Zion has to play with the center. You know, I want it to be a Kelly Olynyk
necessarily
type.
True, like in a vacuum. We know that in the 85 games Zion has played, he's been better with the center because he's
better on defense with the center.
Yeah, because he's young and still figuring it out, and also not for nothing has been a catastrophically bad defensive player.
Yeah,
but that might not be true in 18 months' time or 2 years' time. The hope would be like that it's not. And if you're projecting out like the most likely outcome for Zion's career, it's probably not that he's a bad defender. Like he figures it out at some point, which means that issue doesn't necessarily exist.
Well,
and
then,
even
but
if
there's another variable who I've written about in the past called David Griffin, who he believes, whether you and I think it will happen or not, he believes that there has to be a 5 next to Zion.
Is that the guy from the Fire David Griffin article?
Yeah. What's his name? Fire David.
You can find that
where
at thedeep2.com.
Deep2.com.
You gotta be pulling my leg. It can't be that simple.
But like, because David Griffin is giving this to his coaching stuff, he's given him these 5s. He's got JV there because he can shoot, and he's drafted Jackson Hayes, and like it seems to be that they're always going to have a 5 out there with Zion. Obviously, sample size sucks here, and I really wish we could see more. And it's just sort of like, it seems that's the way they're going. So you and I can sit here and like talk to the cows come home about like, oh, but what if Zion gets better, and what if we do see BI in that more switchable role at the 4 or something? It's like, I would love to. I just don't think it's going to happen. If it does, then when we have this chat 100 episodes from now, I could be 0% on Donovan.
I just don't see that as an actual problem necessarily, though, because like, okay, so we're not talking about him playing the 4 and we're rolling out like a Houston Rockets switch everything defense. What if you're just switching 1 through 3?
Yeah, but that's different, because how often is there a 1-3 pick and roll?
Well, I mean, in this era of positionless basketball, like more often, especially with like bigger wings who can shoot, like you're looking at pick and pop opportunities there. But I don't think that this discussion necessarily needs to be constrained to like the New Orleans Pelicans roster alignment. Yeah, because BI can do those things. Like we might not get to see them on the Pelicans, but like me as like the hypothetical. Like, I've got this, like, top 15 alpha superstar who I think can be the best player on a championship team. Like, BI is, like, a perfect fit to be that second guy. I couldn't see him being the first guy, the best guy. We've seen that. But I think in terms of, like, forecasting what's his ideal role, I think that eventually, hopefully, he will be... in that exact situation. He'll be like he'll be the Paul George to Kawhi, or he'll be the Kyrie to LeBron, and they'll be able to have some success like that.
I more think the Siakam to a Kawhi. A Siakam level where it's like, 2.5/3 best player on a championship team.
Yeah. And
one thing that really helps with that, and then we saw it in the playoffs and the play-in. Now, in the play-in, they were going against the San Antonio Spurs, who were like a bee's dick away from just blowing it all up.
A bee's dick.
Is that, like, BI, obviously, he's got that Kevin Durantisms in him where he's just a tall, lanky shooter, but, like, he can so clearly get his shot over anyone. And there's a shot that... I honestly have been thinking about this, probably once a week ever since we watched those games at your house between the Suns and the Pelicans.
I don't remember those games.
Where he grabbed the ball at the in one of the elbows of the high post. He got it off just like a CJ McCollum bullshit. He's caught it, and then he jabs left, and then he took one dribble to his right, and he's already got the step on his defender, and then he took a massive sidestep, just taller than the guys in front of him, took a massive sidestep, and it was just a wide open fading jump shot, and it was beautiful, and he just made it, and he's taller than everyone, and it just went in, and he's got a really nice jump shot, and it's like, that is something that you rarely see other players make. Like, that might be the Brandon Ingram shot. If the New Orleans Pelicans go on to make a dynasty in the next 5 years, that could be like, oh man, that's just like an unbeatable combination of just giving it to him at the high post with the jab and sidestep. So I really love that in terms of something just like greater than the collective basketball that we watch, where it's like, this is, you could see it as a vortex, but you could also see it as just a guaranteed 2 points anytime you want to score a basket. And that's who he is, and that is that's a reason why I can understand someone like you would be pining for BI to win this argument.
That's something that I want to talk about as well, is that specific shot, and more specifically his like ball handling ability and size combination means he can get that shot essentially whenever he wants, and that's exactly what he did in the Phoenix series. That's exactly what he's been doing the last like 2 to 3 years since he's really developed that skill set, and also figured out that he can just get that shot whenever he wants. The downside of that is that he doesn't shoot as many threes as you would like, even though he is a good 3-point shooter. But that like mentioning the playoff production, like I think he's played 6 playoff games. But he performed really impressively, and he like anchored a team that looked like it was maybe gonna upset the 1 seed for a little while. He played 40 minutes a game, averaged 27, 6 and 6. So that's a pretty good way to introduce yourself.
On 48, 41, 83 shooting.
Yeah, not bad. That being said, though, like if this conversation was being taken from a point of like, it's game 1 of a playoff series, pick your guy, choose your fighter, and they're both in the Tekken menu with like their fists raised in their pose, and they're both like kind of bobbing back and forth a little bit, I would take Mitchell. If you just said to me you need someone to win you a playoff series, I would take Mitchell over Ingram, and I actually wouldn't. I wouldn't hesitate. Like I wouldn't need to think about it for very long whatsoever. Which is both an indication that this debate is very complex, and that there might be different answers for different contexts, and that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But also a testament to the fact that like Donovan Mitchell has played 39 playoff games in 5 seasons. So he's averaging 2 playoff series per season through his first 5 years. And he's had those fucking games where he's gone for 50. He's had the playoff series like as a rookie where he was the guy in his first ever playoff series and like propelled the Jazz into the second round. Where he averaged fucking 28 points a game, which is
24. His first playoff series.
No, 28, but I'm looking at it right now. But,
I'm also looking
but
at
anyway, 28, you dickhead. Anyway.
On his first series.
Oh, his first series. That's exactly...
I was talking about his first playoffs.
Well, you said series. Anyway, it's all love here at the D2MJ podcast. He averages 28, 5 and 5, and he is for all that mid-range J is for Brandon Ingram like playoff proof. Mitchell in the playoffs just seems to have like the je ne sais quoi of great playoff scorers, and he doesn't have any one shot. He's getting to the rim, he's pulling up from the elbow, he's hitting you with step back threes. Like he kind of does it all.
Yeah.
So if that were the calculus, I would take him.
Yeah. So like that's one thing that I was going to mention, and it is a little bit of an unfair argument to Tiny Beast because the playoffs are literally 6 games to a million games.
But then also like.
He dragged his team there.
Like the reason why the Jazz are in the playoffs isn't because Mitchell's not just there and then having an unfair advantage opportunity. Like he's the offense. He's the offense. Yeah, he's the reason why they were able to get there in the first place. Like he obviously, I think we'd both agree that wasn't a better or more important player for them than Gobert through this era of the Jazz playoff failure. But he would only, he's the offensive engine. Like he's the reason why they are there. The system is built around him and his dynamism. So I don't think that it is actually unfair to say to weigh this in his favor. Like he has 39 games of playoff experience because he's
been the best player in a playoff team.
And Ingram hasn't really done that. And I also think it's fair to say to weight those 6 games that Ingram had, although they were against the 1 seed and he performed really, really well, to say, well, you were 2 games away from not being there. You didn't really, you kind of snuck in as the 10 seed. And
late CJ trade. And
like, it is, I think, a fair argument to say that, like, in terms of, like, the playoff discourse, like, Mitchell just eclipses BI. And that's kind of, show me what you've done. And Mitchell he's showing me.
Yeah. And in terms of theory, like let's say again, you've got a blank canvas and you just want to like grab one of these guys. Having a scoring guard who like the biggest knock on him is his defense, and we saw in this most recent series that no one on that Utah team was really trying on defense, and then there was the big debate about Rudy Gobert, and then everyone said, well, look, these guys are just letting people walk straight past him.
Yeah.
But just having a scoring guard, and a scoring guard that we know that when it comes down to it can be one of the best scoring guards in the playoffs, which is so valuable. Scoring guards are much easier to paper over in terms of just getting the right defensive personnel around him. And it helps to have Defensive Player of the Year Rudy Gobert behind you, but also having just essentially a 3-and-D point guard in Mike Conley who can also pass, and then having Joe Ingles next to him, a 3-and-D point guard who can pass next to him is great. It's like, yeah, they won, like, was it like 60 games or close to 60 games for like 5 years in a row there because they were just a machine that knew how to win games. Even though Donovan Mitchell isn't a good defender and doesn't try on the best of days, still was able to win games and just paper over. If you have Brandon Ingram, who is, whether he's playing one of the big positions or whether he's playing on the wing, like, would you say that's more exploitable? Just as you go up the positional spectrum, does your defensive importance become more?
Yeah, I think broadly I would agree with that. But I also have difficulty fully acknowledging that Mitchell is a bad defender, that he's a really bad defender, because I don't think that like late stage Ingles and Conley and Bogdanovic were just like not trying. Like I think those guys were trying. They're just like limited defenders, whether through athleticism or age. Mitchell's the only one of those guys who was bad but had the scope to be good.
Yeah. And
watching him in the playoffs last postseason, this postseason just passed, where he wasn't trying. I can't believe that he's just bad. Like, he clearly wasn't trying. And if he doesn't have it in him to try, well, then he's a dickhead and needs to kind of, like, get his head read, and some coach needs to, like, really, really, really pull him down a peg and give him the whole, who do you think you are, that you can just not try. Yeah. I really have an issue with that. But I kind of believe that in the right system, because clearly he hasn't been fully happy in Utah for a few years. There's all of the stuff about him and Gobert. There was all of the COVID stuff. Now he's like looking to get traded. Like, it seems obvious. The coach left. Like, it seems obvious that things weren't simpatico for a few years.
Yeah.
I want to believe that on a different team in a different situation, he would try harder. And he has the physical tools to be good. And he's been in the NBA for 5 years. So I don't believe that he doesn't know how to defend.
Yeah.
And get in your stance, move your feet, don't reach. Cool. All right. Now be 6'4", athletic as hell, and try hard.
Yeah.
Great. You're a passable defender.
Yeah. All right, and then going back to the offense, like I said it with Brandon Ingram at the start. Like, yes, he's got that awesome shot, and he's got that sort of vortexy / super creative and whatever mid-range game. But with Donovan Mitchell, it's like you put the ball in his hands, and every single season he's played, he's gotten better at just taking an extra step back and being able to take threes, and like he's slowly worked in the step back, and we're spoiled as NBA fans watching the step back just become weaponized by James Harden and Steph Curry and so on, and Damian Lillard. But like, it's also good to say these dudes like Donovan Mitchell and some of the lesser players who aren't the super duper duper stars, they are still like utilizing this step back that they probably wouldn't have 5-10 years ago if they came into the league. It's just a fucking impossible shot, and we're just distracted by the greatest shooters in NBA history. So like that's getting better. He's still only 25 years old, and it's just so much easier to build an offense around a guy who, if you set a screen for him and the big isn't up on that screen, he's just going to pull it and he's able to hit shots off the dribble. Like, that is, it's worked in the playoffs, it's worked in the regular season, it's so easy to build around. All of a sudden, Rudy Gobert leads the league in dunks for like the last 4 seasons. I think it actually is the last 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Just because there's all this shooting around him and everything just works. So like, I would much rather have that than Brandon Ingram, where it's like, okay, if he's your number one option and he's as good can be, then he's Kawhi Leonard, and it's like, okay, you're willing to give up the ball and he can dribble, take a shot. But as a second or third option, where you give it to Brandon Ingram and he goes, all right, give me a couple of seconds, couple of dribbles, maybe I get that high post jab and then mid ranger. That is a little bit less valuable for someone who is a tertiary player, who it's like if he's holding the ball for 14 seconds, then all of a sudden CJ and Zion aren't doing what they do, which CJ can be good off the ball, but Zion might not be as much. So just in terms of whether Donovan Mitchell is your first option or your second option, just having a guy who can shoot off the catch, off the dribble, just so flexible. And, yeah.
Do you think that he can be the best player on a
championship team?
Let's be realistic and say on a Final Four team.
Well, I picked the Jazz to win the finals 2 years ago.
I actually forgotten about that until revisiting this episode for some homework. One of the better bits of early TD2 comedy was you consistently going in on the Jazz and it having absolutely catastrophically blowing up in your face.
I still stand by it. 2 years in a row, they had to go against the James Harden Rockets when they were at their best, which was like that team obviously went to Game 7 against Golden State and missed 27 straight threes. That team could have easily won the finals. They were one of the best two teams in the league, and they had to get matched up with them twice. And then as soon as they stopped getting matched up with one of the most explosive offenses in the world, who's just, the antithesis of everything Rudy Gobert's good at, as soon as they stop doing that, they fucking blow up chemistry-wise. So it's like, I stand by that take.
So what you're saying is you have no fault in the bad take. It's a bad take, but it's not your fault.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you reckon? Do you say that?
Nah, not at all. But sure. What I wanted to ask you is, do you see him? And just let's follow this thought experiment through. Do you see him as the best player? Could he be the best player on a team that makes the Final Four?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think...
Because I can't.
One of the best two players in terms of like a Paul George Kawhi Leonard.
No, but I mean, I'm saying like, can he be your first star and you have substantial postseason success?
Yeah, right now no, but you would bet that he can be. So
see, I don't even think that I would take that bet either.
Yeah.
I don't think that right now he can. I don't think that I would take that bet. What I do think is if you wanted to tell me that I need to win, I'm a coach. And I need to win 40 games this season and sniff the postseason, or my owner's firing me, I would rather have Donovan Mitchell, because I think that he is a floor raiser, definitely, because he has a skill set and a mindset that Tiny Beast just doesn't have. And he's got a proven track record of season after season just scoring 25 points a game. Doing it in every which way, and yes, he's not particularly efficient. Like, the guy came into the league shooting 20 shots a game, and he's still shooting 20 shots a game, and he's never shot above 45%, and he shoots 36% from the field from the 3-point line for his career. So his efficiency numbers are not through the roof. He is taking high degree of difficulty shots because he's just a fucking bucket getter. If I need to win 40 games, or I need to win one playoff series, I want him, but I just can't forecast seeing a team where he's the guy. And I said this on the in episode 41 when we had this conversation, that the only teams that have great success, sustained success, built around a dynamic scoring guard has been the Golden State Warriors over the last 15 years. And looking at Steph Curry as an example is a fool's end. He's the aberration. He's the anomaly. The only other comparison in since we've been watching basketball for the last 10 years or so, the only other comparison is Damian Lillard, who made it to the Western Conference Finals once in what is commonly derided as probably the worst team to make a Western Conference Finals of the decade, and hasn't been back since. Didn't get there before, hasn't been back since. So you can't build a team around a small guard like this. And the two guys that have had the best, the one guy who's done it, Steph, and Dame, who's had the best shot to kind of replicate it, are both wildly efficient players. Dame's 3-point numbers have never been Steph level 44%, but he is taking crazy degree of difficulty shots, which drives his percentages down.
But again, going back to the point, we are spoiled by watching Steph. Dame is very good.
I know. No, yeah, exactly. Dame is I think in a tier above Mitchell, and I don't see Mitchell ever being as good as Dame was at his peak. And Dame at his peak could only barely just get his team into the Final Four.
And so he didn't have to face Houston or Golden State till the Final Four.
Yeah, so I don't see a world in which Mitchell develops into a kind of player like that. Now, again, I don't see Ingram becoming that either. But I also don't see a world in which, like, Mitchell is like this great second star, Dwayne Wade for LeBron kind of guy who does like exactly what needs to be done. I just don't think that he's as versatile, but also his skill set is like the bucket getter.
Yeah.
And if he's playing on a team where it's maybe unfair of me to say this because we've never seen it, but if he's playing on a team with someone else who needs 22 shots a game, I don't have faith that will go well, that he'll be able to maintain his output and efficiency. No, we've never seen that, so maybe unfair of me to say, but I just don't, like, I see room for growth and, like, role development in Ingram that I don't see in Mitchell.
Yeah. That's unless Mitchell just has a most improved player leap like Brandon Ingram. But if he has that leap, then all of a sudden he's vaulted from that second or third tier of stars to, you know, the Damian Lillard at his peak level, which is, you know, you'd say a top tier star. But like when you ask me if he's your best player on a title winning team, it's like LeBron, Steph, Jokic, Joel Embiid. There's not many.
That's why I don't say title winning though. I say like Final Four.
Okay.
The depth, the deep two. God, that's a mouthful. Anyways, I'm Marco, co-host of the Hey, Daniel Gafford, what's the name of our podcast?
The JVG NBA Tribute Show.
Wow, I can't believe it's that easy. Thanks, Gaff. You probably know us as two members of the four-man weave plus Marco, but we know you as our next listener.
Well said, Lucas. I gotta ask, how do we differ from the pack of basketball podcasts?
It's a great question, Marco. You see, on our basketball podcast, we have two male co-hosts.
Wow, truly groundbreaking. After this episode, stay on your favourite podcasting app and give us a spin.
Well, how about a very similar question? If you were to give up, you know, let's just say whatever the price is, and it's the same for both guys. If you were the New York Knicks and you had your pick between Brandon Ingram and Donovan Mitchell, who would you rather trade for?
I would trade for Donovan Mitchell because I'm the New York Knicks, and let's just do it and see what happens.
No, but would you consider? Let's say you can move Julius Randle on this deal. Would you consider trading?
I can move Julius Randle on this deal.
Yeah.
Fuck, giving up 10 first round picks to do it.
but you know what I mean. Like
yeah. See, I have to think about this because this whole conversation has essentially been had in a vacuum. Like, and now applying it to the Knicks, I don't know. Like, it's a conversation because on the one hand, Mitchell gives you so much on-ball dynamism, and he gives you just like a scoring punch from the backcourt that they just like haven't really had, except for Derrick Rose's 24 minutes per game over the last 2 seasons, when he's been healthy for 35 games a season. Which is something that they kind of like desperately need. But on the other hand, I mean, where are the Knicks right now? I would trade for Mitchell. Where are the Knicks saying like, let's build a championship caliber roster, and the next move that we make isn't like the last domino to fall. I would go for Ingram because then there's capacity to bring in someone above Ingram, and then all of a sudden your 1-2 punch is just elite. But the Knicks right now want to jump from the 8th seed to the 5th seed, and I think Mitchell, because he's a floor raiser, will do that. Will help for that more immediately than Ingram would. So were I Leon Rose right now, I would trade for Mitchell for basketball reasons, also just vibes. Like, Mitchell to the Knicks has to happen.
Yeah.
This is just like a more general comment. Like, it's so like NBA of 15 years ago, and we really, really need it.
Yeah.
We really need like the mid-level all-star traded to bad team to like make it okay, and then bad team can say, we've got our all-star, and then you just see what happens. Like, that is, the possibilities are limitless, and I'm really excited by them.
Yeah, it's something I do really want to see, and something that would be like, you know, a dream of mine in a small way, like to be that guy, whether that be Leon Rose building the team or Nick's Tibbs as the gangster coach, or whether it be, you know, one of the players like Donovan Mitchell getting traded there to like build up New York basketball and like pull them from the depths and just be like, you grab them by the neck and be like, we're gonna fucking win, like gritty New York basketball. That is like mega cringe but super cool, and
it's so cringe, but at the same time it's like there's a fundamental element of like every basketball fan, no matter how enlightened and high thinking like us they may be, there is a fundamental like relationship of my love for basketball with that kind of like exactly what you just described, like pulling like a moribund franchise, like the idea of like the New York point guard. Like, I want to see the fucking New York point guard that comes in. He's born and bred in New York. He comes to the Knicks and he like makes it all happen. Like LeBron
to Cleveland,
coming back to Cleveland to then win it and going on the microphone, Cleveland, this is for you. Like the shit that like we sit behind our computers and go like, oh, that's so cringe. But in the moment, like that's kind of like exactly why you love it. Like seeing those kind of like almost like sports movie moments, those sports movie plots. Like we love those on like a deep fundamental level. Maybe we're not,
but it's also sort of a cheat code, because like you look at Steph and like Steph's most recent ring, because Golden State Warriors are the current NBA champions. A couple of weeks ago, I was actually watching finals highlights today. There's just this mix of Steph Curry playoff highlights and then finals highlights, and then Game 4, which is fucking incredible. Remember those two before he hit the 3 in Derek White's face on the sort of stop pull up? Remember how he hit 2 threes going left off the screen and got fouled on both of them?
No.
Took his mouth guard out, screaming at the ref. Actually hit Grant Williams, and they didn't call a tech because they were just like, oh, we missed that one. He hit 2 and 1 threes. Anyway, but yeah,
I watched one of those games.
Fuck me, Dante.
Yeah, so I got to play basketball podcast.
I've watched a single one of those games more than you've watched one of them.
Yeah, I was in thesis submission mode, so I was grinding.
Honestly, not worth it.
Yeah, well,
you've got a diploma. I've got memories.
I kind of feel like it wasn't worth it now. That's a story for another day.
But like Steph Curry, like the whole thing of like he's brought this team up, and then, you know, people were giving him crap for KD, but regardless, they were one of the greatest teams of NBA history, and now he's done it without KD. And obviously, as soon as the final buzzer goes in Game 6, he falls to the floor crying, and he didn't cry for any of his 3 previous rings, because that's how many rings he has, 4. And it's like he broke down crying. It's like, oh my god, you know, I can't wait till this is a fucking documentary, like, you know, The Last Dance, Steph Curry version.
That's what he was thinking whilst he was crying.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But it seems sort of like a cheat code that the Knicks just have this like cookie cutter where it's like, you know, whoever we get, it's going to be a story because we're the Knicks. And like Jalen Brunson, the second he signed, which was actually 6:01 on July 1st.
Well, not if the NBA decides that it was before.
Slap on the second round pick wrist. But the second he signed, he changed his Twitter pic to him as like a 4-year-old wearing a Knicks hat. And he's just like, man, Knicks point guard. And like, it's funny you say like, oh, I can't wait till fucking Spider Mitchell goes there. He's going to be like the Knicks all-star that comes in and pulls the team up. It's like, they just spent $6 million on their point guard. And we're already talking about how he's a great third option.
Yeah.
But that's a Knicks thing.
Yeah. Even just like the Melo, like that one Melo season, 2013-14. Melo in the Garden, he went for 60 against Charlotte. Like the headband, like fucking, you know, that season as well before Stat got injured, and he was going on like, he had like 10 games in a row where he had 30 points and 12 boards, and it was like only Shaq had done that before, and it was like, can he break the record? And like they were just killing it. And there's, you know, like on a basketball level, like how that played out, where we both look at that and be like, ooh, like, you know, Melo is his own special thing, but like, you know, Stat's career fell off pretty quickly after the knee injuries really, really kicked in. But that Melo season where he won the scoring title, he averaged 29 points per game, like the Garden was going crazy. Like on a basketball level, we can both say like, probably not a great way to build your team if you wanted like, you know, actual success. Yeah. And that bore out in the way that team went, you know, both in the playoffs that season and after. But like just the experience of everyone being hyped and like something genuinely really good going on. I feel like it connects with a lot of people on like on a deeper level, like, and on some level that is the thing that brings people to like a love of the game. Like you have like some fundamental connection to a player or a team like that. That even though we grow up and we become basketball analysts and we learn to think about things with logic and facts, our inner teenager who fell in love with the game still sees shit like that, like LeBron on the mic, you know, like Steph crying on the floor, and
KG, anything is possible.
Yeah, still sees that, and has
misquoted the Adidas.
Yeah.
And also just on a more personal sense, when it's 9 o'clock on a Saturday night and I've got a few friends around, just going on Side Talk NYC and just showing them like the Knicks dudes just going crazy. And it's like, this is, you know, while the parade might be amazing for Golden State, like these Knicks literally just won game 2 against Trae Young.
Yeah.
They were throwing stuff at him. They were spitting on him. It's like, none of you guys matter. Like,
Is Nick's Twitter during the Alfred Payton era too dark to show people at 9 p.m. on a Saturday night? Hey guys, you want to see a decapitated head?
There were no photos of a decapitated head. And something that a pod that friend of the pod Alessio put us onto was Pod Don't Lie with Sam and Stav. Just like essentially two comedians, Knicks, talking about the New York Knicks, and then it was right after COVID. They went to that playoff run where it was, you know, Julius Randle and all that. Just, you know, well, let's call it the pre-Evan Fournier signing era.
Don't Google that.
Where things were going well. And it was like just as sort of, I say COVID was ending in quotas, in quotes. And then they were just letting people into the Garden, and it was just as the playoffs started. And Stavros went in, and he's like, man, the vibes are crazy. Everyone was going nuts. He's screaming, fuck you, Trae Young and stuff. And then there's a dude next to him who's just like, hey, brother, you want a bump? He's just like showed him some white powder. And then he's like, this is awesome because we're in the vaccinated section. So you're actually like, you're doing the right thing. But he's just like, the fucking Garden's popping, man. Like, we're back. COVID's finished. Julius Randle just hit a game winner and all that stuff. And just imagine if their players were good.
Imagine how that could be a game with like Donovan Mitchell, like in the first round playoff series, and he hits the game winner and the Garden is bumping again. Jalen Brunson chips in with a workman like 18, 6 and 6. Mitchell goes for 35 and the game winner.
Isaiah Hartenstein, 5 blocks.
Plus
16 and a 2-point win.
Don't talk about that they got gentlemen swept in the second round. We don't need to hear about that. But like, it would just be fun. And also, I would be remiss to say that even despite this like impassioned kind of conversation that we've had about like why we connect what's really like important to us about the game of basketball, there's a high chance that it would just like end badly and like go badly the whole time, which would be fun in a completely different sense, and I would just like love it, because as much as it is really fun to see the Garden bumping and like New York fans celebrating something really genuinely good going on for their basketball team, it's as fun when the Knicks are like really bad, and we've had a few years now where they're in this kind of like holding pattern almost, where it's been obvious that they're like building towards something. Like, what's the move? What are they going to do? They haven't done anything Knicksy for a while. Like, they're saving it all up. And this would be the move, because bringing in Mitchell empties the asset chest. And then this is like essentially your team, unless you can find a Julius Randle trade partner. And that could be really interesting. Like, bring the popcorn.
Yeah, like, I wonder if there's another move, but probably not, because it's sort of cramps him. But yeah, let's hope the Knicks are back. I hope we don't start the season with Donovan Mitchell, with fucking Jared Vanderbilt and Pat Bev.
No, it'd be awful. And also, like, just like the city of Utah, like, let him go.
Yeah,
he's done his time.
I don't want to see him wear your ugly jerseys.
Yeah,
I hope those jerseys. Ugly. I hope they only last a season.
Yeah, they're pretty ugly.
What do you reckon about Golden State's new jerseys, the California ones?
I haven't seen them.
Okay, Google it. They're based off UCal.
Oh, I do like that. It's giving me Jordan Poole at Michigan vibes.
Yeah.
You know the one?
Yeah.
So before we go, you've got an article coming out early. Look at that! It's the exact same fucking colorway.
Oh no, it's legit. It's actually based off California.
Cal Golden Bears.
That's the one. Ask the bloody football ladder.
Cal basketball jerseys. Yeah, it is. Anyway, sick. And an audio platform. You have an article coming out early next week. Tell us a bit about it.
I think it needs a bit of work, so let's keep it to
Jeez,
early.
don't fucking sell it too hard.
Let's keep it to early, not an exact day. But don't worry, we've got our finest editors working on it, also known as editor Dante Boff. Mr. Boff, my man, how are we? It's talking about Karl Anthony Towns, and it's sort of similar to the discussions we just had about BI and Donovan Mitchell. It's like Karl Anthony Towns, the Timberwolves have said, okay, this is our guy. We've signed him to a Heath Max. We're going to hopefully be good for the next 10 years with Cat there, under contract for 5 more years. We've brought in Rudy Gobert, gave up way too much to do it, to paper over all of his issues and all of his shortcomings. And, all right, we have to be good now. Like, he's a good player, but is he as good as Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic, or is he like Donovan Mitchell on that sort of second tier in his positional grouping? And if he is, they still might win 50 to 60 games in the regular season because they've just got a lot of talent, but they won't go very far because you simply can't win games if you don't have that super duper star right there. So, yeah, just wondering where the rubber meets the road on that. Is it going to be Cat's fault for not being good enough? Which probably won't be. Historically, we don't see that happen in terms of the discourse around players and player and teams. Or is the team just going to be like, damn, like we have to keep getting better and keep working around Cat when maybe they've just sort of picked the guy to invest in? You know, have you picked Zip Pay instead of Afterpay?
Jeez, you'd be spewing if you picked Zip Pay. You would absolutely be spewing. Okay, well, I'm excited to see that drop on thedeep2.com. It really is that simple. Sometime early to mid next week, because we are only human.
And and on Monday night we're going to go see Hateful Eight in 70 mil, which is going to be your first viewing of the Hateful Eight.
Yeah, we're getting dinner as well? Or?
Yeah, we'll get Luxor.
Yeah. Oh, Luxor, the second best
the
of the
second
Asian
best
suit.
Asian suit, brother. The first, of course, being Pho.
No,
and the third
we can agree to disagree.
The third being Ramon Sessions.
We can agree to disagree. Okay, we'll get Luxor. Where is this joint? It's on the other side of town?
Yeah, Yarraville.
Yarraville. Okay,
Yeah.
Alright, I'll have to bring the keys in, unfortunately. Won't be able to fully let loose.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this has been lots of fun. And just a final parting thought. Sometimes thinking about the early days of the pod, even though episode 41 is not like early, like we were established in what we were doing by then. We figured out who we were, I think. When I think about the early days of the pod, I'm sometimes cringe and I'm like, oh, like those early episodes, we were really bad podcasters. We were better than I thought.
Oh, really?
We were better than I thought.
Not gonna lie, Dante, I didn't listen to it.
You didn't listen to
No.
it? Oh, you dirty.
I just told you I had a nap instead.
You dirty dog.
But that's good.
We were much better than what I expected us to be. So that was like a nice little we actually figured it out earlier than what I thought we did.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
How are we going now? Have you listened to this one?
Come on now.
How's the sound quality?
better than the Perth Wi-Fi era.
The Arc. All right, Dante, I'll speak to you next week.